Kris, on camera, so I've got a few questions here for you. So you contacted us, a couple of weeks ago? You can just look at me. It's fine.
3 or 4 weeks ago.
About 3 or 4 weeks ago. And you come and joined us for the Naked.Recovery retreat about a week ago. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Sunday a week ago.
So what was it that made you want to do a retreat rather than perhaps one of our other book or...
I felt that for me, I needed the intensity of the focus on it. I'm very susceptible to the short-term avoidance tactics.
Yeah, we all are.
And I felt that doing something in person would force me to change my behavior and be more open to the change.
Yeah.
I also felt that because I wasn't working, I didn't have the focus of a job and stuff to go to as well.
I didn't realize that. Okay.
That it would leave me with too much time
to kind of get into your rut or something. Okay.
Yeah. Whereas this was much more focused, much more intense, and I felt that for me the one-on-one engagement was very important because the physical aspects are very important. So interacting with the computer and with Skype is not the same as, and for some people it is, and it works really well, I think. But for me and my own kind of tendencies, the in-person I felt would make a difference.
And it's been some time since your breakup, right?
3 years.
3 years. So was there some sort of catalyst that decided, okay, this is enough now, I need to do something better? Was there a particular event? Or?
Yeah. So hearing news of him moving on made me realize that I had essentially been in denial, and I had developed coping mechanisms, but I hadn't actually accepted anything.
Okay.
And it was a feeling of, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
I can't have this impact on my life because otherwise I'm setting myself up for every time I'll go back to coping, and then the
survival
next thing would
techniques.
happen, and the next thing would happen. And it was a realization that where I thought I'd healed over the last few years, I hadn't.
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, we also provide services and stuff, but we're always really aware that it's still you that has to do the hard work, right? So we have to congratulate you. We took a really big step there. So, pat yourself on the back for doing that. And everything else that's happened since then is because of you taking that kind of bold step. Okay, so we answered this one. So, obviously you've been here for about a week. So tell us about your experience here in Thailand. For the first time.
First time in Thailand.
Yeah.
I love Thai food.
Okay, good.
And in the beginning, my typical reaction with emotional upset is I don't eat.
Okay.
So it was
I never have that problem.
So that was a challenge.
Yeah.
I mean, that's been a challenge in the past, but I'm now able to eat more, which is nice. So I feel like I'm taking a bit more advantage of the food and stuff like that, which is good.
Cool.
The food is amazing.
Yeah.
And the culture is just really nice and calming.
It's very relaxing here, isn't it?
Even going into the markets is not as hectic feeling as the markets in China, for example.
Yeah.
You don't feel kind of jumped upon by everybody. You can just wander and things.
Yeah.
So that has been a great environment to be going through things.
Yeah. And you've got up to a few kind of tourist bits, right? Since you've been here.
So
did the elephants?
Not yet. I'm doing the elephants on Wednesday.
Okay, cool.
I did the night safari.
Okay, what do you think of that?
That was quite cool.
Yeah. I like the night safari.
It was kind of, I walked around the walking bits before the tram, and it was kind of a find the animal challenge because there are very few lights. Yeah. So it's walking around the zoo in the dark with your phone flashlight trying to.
It sounds like a terrible thing to do, actually, when you describe it like that. It sounds like a very dangerous thing to do, but most people survive it.
Within their enclosures.
Cool.
So that was fun, and then we did Doi Sutep.
Yeah, which is a temple top of the hill here in Chiang Mai.
And the markets, and just wandering around.
Did you do a cooking thing as well?
And I did a cooking thing.
Okay, how was that?
Yeah. That was fun.
Yeah?
It was fun.
Okay.
Like I said, I love Thai food, and so just seeing how easy some of the things are, and some of the kind of mistakes I've been making in cooking some of those things myself. So that was quite cool.
Cool. And obviously the actual journey itself.
Yeah.
So how was that?
It's been painful,
Yeah,
without a doubt.
yeah.
Um,
It's not easy, yeah?
no,
It's challenging.
it is definitely one of the most painful things. This
Yeah.
is not how, I feel like people would say, oh, you've been on holiday in Thailand. And it's like, no, it was a trip.
Yeah,
But it was not a
far away
holiday.
from. I'm always the analogy I like to use, and sometimes works for people. It's like from a physical injury. Sometimes you need to dig out the wound, or basically have more pain in short term to lead to real healing, as opposed to not dealing with a cut and you've got a scar for life.
Yeah.
So does that kind of analogy fit for you?
It does.
Yeah.
It's a strange experience going on a trip like this, knowing that you are walking into
Exposing your wounds and your vulnerabilities. Yeah.
You are walking into it,
Yeah.
and that's an interesting experience.
Okay.
But it also made me realize that I could survive facing the painful emotions, and it feels like it's been transformative.
Well, I have to say, it's clear to anyone that knows you, and I don't know you, and it's clear to me the transformation has happened in just a few days.
I feel like it isn't fully bedded in, it's not
Yeah.
fully stabilized,
Okay.
but I feel like the beginnings of the foundation are there,
Yeah,
and that I need to work at stabilizing
yeah.
those things.
So we're going to continue the program with you after you go back
Yeah.
with some support calls with Adele,
Yes,
just to
for a
make
month
sure that happens.
To kind of get reintegrated
Yeah,
and start the focus on moving forward.
Yeah.
Particularly because I don't have a routine to go back to. I just moved back to London, was planning to start looking for a job the day after I
yeah,
had the kind of news that threw me off track
yeah,
and derailed me. So I need to kind of, I have to live with the uncertainty in the short term
yeah.
before I can get into a kind of a longer term routine.
I mean, I'm sure Dale's gone through this with you. We kind of have 3 stages. First of all, it's kind of like, we call it cocoon, which is basically securing your environment and trying to control, ground the emotions, really. And then once that's there, then we can go through the kind of painful experience. You've got someone supporting you through that bit, which I think you're probably towards the end of that journey, which is pretty remarkable. Just a few days, a bit intensive. And then yes, we're now in this sort of stabilisation period, which will continue after your Thai trip. So that's awesome. Any particular challenges or days when we have a 21-day program? You kind of laser focus, got the zooming through those days. Was there a particular day
I think it was 6, 7, and 8
Okay.
were the hardest.
Yeah. Okay.
Adele said one of them was going to have been the hardest, and
Yeah.
the next one was worse. But
Just when you thought you were safe.
and that's not to say that the ones after that weren't challenging, but they were uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But they weren't as draining and viscerally
Yeah.
kind of painful.
Okay.
But even those days didn't kill me.
Yeah. It's worth knowing, right?
I thought they were going to during
Yeah.
them at times,
Yeah.
but they didn't kill
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
And I can't say that the exercises have been enjoyable. I think for some people, elements probably are, but they have been. Each one has made me realize something, and has made me think about things from another perspective. Has made me aware of something, and in doing that, each one provides an element of hope that things can be different in the future. And combining that with, once you accept that you can't change the past, and forgive yourself for the fact that you can't change the past, need to do things differently,
Yeah.
I think that those things combined build up the hope
Yeah.
that things can be better.
So before we kind of got on camera, at the very start of this journey, we actually got you to complete a short form, basically to explain where you were emotionally, your feelings, and how intense those feelings were. And I've just asked you to complete the form right now. I've actually got it in front of us. I don't need to go through any of them directly, but just for people that perhaps haven't done the course yet, and maybe considering it, maybe you, in your own words, can just describe how different some of these numbers are, so people can understand. Because one thing for us, it's quite hard for us to sometimes explain to people, you know, how successful the course is when it's not a piece of maths. So the way we've tried to get around that is to get a kind of point score, how people feel, you know, at the beginning and at the end. So perhaps you can just talk a little bit about your scores.
I think when your scores are as high as mine were in the beginning, it is really, really challenging to even imagine that there can be anything that can help. Because by definition of some of them, you don't have that hope. And everything is so overwhelming.
Yeah.
So coming into this, I wanted to believe it was going to help. I felt I had to believe it was going to help.
Did you really think it was going to happen?
I didn't know what else to do.
Yeah.
And I felt desperate.
Yeah.
I knew that I had to do something different because what I had been doing so far wasn't working. It clearly wasn't working, because if it had been, I would not be feeling that awful based on the news I'd heard. So I knew I had to be proactive and do something different and give something else a chance. But it was hard to even try and be hopeful that it would work.
So obviously you just made a commitment, which is, you know, that's what it's all about. I mean, we can do and say anything we like, but it's still the person's responsibility to make that commitment. And you obviously made a big commitment by committing to the actual retreat. Did you think it was going to work, or did you just feel like, well, it probably won't work, but I'll give it a try anyway? I mean, what was your
I felt
thinking?
that at the very least, it would help.
Okay, yeah.
I didn't know if it would, you know, solve everything. I didn't know if it would be as successful for me as it was for the people that had written, you know, some of the reviews, the testimonials. But I felt that it had to help at the very least.
Yeah.
And so that alone was enough in the state of mind I was in to warrant trying.
And do you, I mean, I say, it's totally up to you, do you mind sharing the comparison to compare some of the numbers? Because I obviously I know what the numbers are, but...
So at the beginning, all of my numbers were 7 or higher.
Yeah.
With the intensity being pretty much almost all of them over 50.
Yeah.
And now my highest number was a 4.
Yeah.
And the intensity was around 20 or 30.
And some of these numbers have gone from 10 out of 10 to 0.
Yeah.
I mean...
And that's not to say that I think that I won't ever feel those things again. I'm sure there will be days where I do. But this gives me confidence that even if they are higher again at some point, they can go back down.
Yeah.
And that I can find a way to get through it.
And we find that people who have gone through this course have huge repercussions beyond, you know, jobs, careers, obviously future relationships and stuff. So hopefully we can stay in contact with you. Maybe in a year's time we can kind of see if it's spilled over into other areas of your life. I suspect it will do. It'd be great. So if there's any, maybe a last message for anybody that perhaps was in your position, you know, a couple of months ago, who may be looking on our website right now about all the different tools and services that we provide, who maybe is, you know, well, is this right for me? You know, do you have any message for them perhaps?
I think about what format would work best for your personality, as opposed to what you think is going to be the best thing, because it could be different for everybody.
Yeah.
But that if you can even hope that it will make things a little bit better, it's worth trying.
Yeah, fantastic. Cool. Anything else? No? Thank you very much. I think my camera's a bit wobbly there, but thank you very much for that. I really appreciate it.